Hi, you guys. This is Emily. I am so excited to share this episode with you today with my new and very good friend, Irina, who I just met about 6 weeks ago when I was at a business event out in California where we just happened to sit down at one of those outdoor fires at a hotel and started talking. And one of the things that she points out in this podcast that we noticed about each other was this joy of being alive. And she works with high performers. She's a coach, and she talks about how joy is actually not just nice to have, as being successful and being an achiever in your life and ways to add it in. And it's one of my favorite interviews I've done so far. So enjoy and find out really tangible ways to add more joy, less stress to your life and your business if you are creating one. But hey, everything we do is basically our business, the business of being alive and joyful. So enjoy this one, you guys. Please let me know how you enjoy it. Send me a DM. I love getting those, as would Irina, I'm sure. Welcome to the Shift Your Vibe to Thrive podcast. My name is Emily Evans Russell, and I'm a single mom, multiple six-figure business owner, and master mindset and energy coach. I created this podcast with two main targets. One, to give you practical tools so that no matter where you are in your life right now, you not only know that things can shift, but you know how to make them greater. And two, to change your frequency so that you become an energetic match for everything you desire. I'm talking your relationships, your finances, your success, all of it. Think of this podcast as your weekly energetic upgrade with a mix of subconscious mind hacks, ways to quantum leap, and consciousness shifts. A place where you learn to sculpt your reality and actually finally truly have the magical life you deserve, and one that works for uniquely you. Are you ready to uplevel your reality? I think I hear yes, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Thank you so much for being here. And now let's go to the show. All right, Irina and I are here today. We're recording on a Saturday. It is freezing. She's in London. I'm in Tennessee. We both literally are sitting with blankets and cups of tea. So thanks, Irina, for being here.
I think it's a pleasure, Emily. And I think probably the caveat to this, the disclaimer that we need to say is that if our voices are shaking or shivering, it is because we're both really cold today.
Yeah, we could just blame it on it's excitement, though. There's
so much excitement. Absolutely. The layers and the blankets cannot overcome our excitement.
I invited Irina on the podcast because we met just about a month ago, not long ago, at a business conference out in California. And it was one of those moments where you meet a person in your life, or she would happen to be sitting by a fire outside. And I sat down with another girl I had just met, and we all just started talking. And the three of us then spent the next few days together and have continued really a collaborative, creative relationship. You're in London. You're originally from Romania.
I am.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got there, and kind of what you do.
Yeah, pleasure. By the way, I think it's so important for people to know, the reason why we connected and then couldn't unglue ourselves for the next 3 days. I think we spent every moment together. It's so easy to connect with someone when you feel that they have the same energy, way of thinking, mindset. I think it was so clear for both of us that, we're both really driven entrepreneurs. We're both really led by wanting to achieve impact and change the world and help people. But we do it with a smile on our face. I think that's the first thing that I've noticed about you, is that you're having so much fun while talking about such complex problems or challenges. So that's my girl. I love that. I love that we can talk deep, important issues, maybe struggles or challenges that are happening, but from a positive outlook, with a smile, just thinking that it can be fun. Business shouldn't be that hard. So I think that's part of the reason why that connection instantly happened. And it's now, 6 weeks of friendship, and it's getting even deeper and deeper. So here we are today on the podcast.
But let me pause you, because I love that you brought that up. And you mentioned something in one of our chats, and it really resonated with me, because you said a lot of people, I'm in the corporate world, and when I'm in a boardroom, people assume if I'm happy or joyful or have a smile on my face, then I must be dumb. And I have gotten that my whole life. And I've even bought that and thought, maybe I'm missing something if I actually am happy a lot of the time or joyful. Maybe I'm not, yet I experience the world really intensely and deeply. and I still have this joy. So as you keep going, I'm just grateful you talked about that, because I think those of us that choose to have this energy of excitement and a smile and joy, people can sometimes write it off as, well, you must not be that smart, and I'm not going to take you seriously. Or that joy is just an extra, but it doesn't really help in the business world. So that's one of the main reasons I have you on today, because of that energy too. So I'm really glad you pointed it out.
Yeah, but those are the myths that I'm constantly trying to debunk. So the myth of you have to be serious in order to be taken seriously, that joy or fun will get you in trouble because you have to be like really professional at the workspace. And we know that, by the way, like this comes from our childhood. Like play and fun comes after you're done with your homework. You can only go out after you've finished all your chores and you've done everything around the house and for your school. And I think we just grow up with these beliefs that it's bad if you're having fun. You should be quite serious when you want to achieve success and when you're pursuing a goal that matters to you. So when you see someone like you who's so refreshingly owning her attitude of, I'm going to achieve my highest level of success while enjoying the process, this is really refreshing. And we spoke about our corporate careers. It was, I think I'm still having to constantly and actively work on my beliefs and on my mind that it is okay to smile a bit more. It is okay to be in a corporate environment and wear colorful outfits and wanting to show up in a boardroom where, again, I work in tech. So a lot of my peers and managers are men. I actually use colors and joy and the energy that I bring to actually show them the lack of diversity in the room, to actually show them that, look, you were following some societal norms of a lot of the managers and a lot of the leadership are men, and you're all quite serious and you're all quite maybe the same type of persona. And then here I come, just like with so much excitement that we're going to talk about forecasting and so much joy to talk about our pipeline and the deals we're going to review. And it's okay to be like that. It really is okay. It doesn't take away from your ability to persuade, ability to get your message across, to influence and communicate your ideas. It doesn't, but it does contribute to a much more productive and creative and just a nicer atmosphere in those meetings. And I'm absolutely stunned how people underestimate the power of using joy to increase your performance at work, to increase your productivity at work, to boost your results. Yes, we probably can go on a
Well,
whole.
I love that, because you are so right. Whoever hears the term like joy to increase like productivity. And we know now, we actually, like in neuroscience, the more stressed you are, it literally makes you more dumb and more stupid. And here we are thinking, running that societal norm. If I just work hard and I'm serious, like play can come later. I love that you brought that up. That's how we're raised. And that will somehow get you ahead. But it's actually taking away the things like when you mentioned, when you come in with joy and dressed in color and this movement and energy ahead of just like work, strategy, do. It actually, like, we're opening up to our intuition. Like Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, these people created huge, brilliant companies from their intuition, from following that knowing and not just doing it rote, like I'm going to work really hard and somehow a lot of work is going to help me achieve. So can you say more about how it's not just like, cool, add some joy so you'll be successful. It actually is like, really get out of that stress. Joy gets you out of that like stress, and I'm stupider.
It does. It really is. Yeah, but I think even if you start with the question, if I continue in the same way, so if I still lead my working day with the beliefs that, well, working hard is going to get me where I want and with the success level that I want, and being very serious and being quite just maybe detached from enjoying the process, but more focused on the outcome and the end goal. If you continue like this, let's picture the next 5 years. Where do you think you're going to be? Where do you think that this mentality will actually lead you? Sure, you might have some success. I am absolutely confident that if you work hard and you pursue your goals, you will get to the point that you want. But 99% sure I'm pretty sure that you're going to be miserable by the time you achieve your goal. Because if you don't take time to actually celebrate little milestones, small wins along the way, if you don't take time to intentionally create moments of pleasure along the way, when you don't intentionally energize yourself or do tasks that give you just a boost of happiness, then you will end up like achieving that goal. But you will be more surviving in the process instead of thriving. And it's also not a sustainable thing. I am constantly working with my clients to say, I work with high achievers, high performance. So they already know what they have to do. They already know the what, the how, what they need to do with their thoughts. What I'm saying is that if you work with me, what we're going to do is that you're going to get the same results, but delivered with a smile. You'll be performing, but you're not going to be surviving. You're going to be thriving in the process. So going back to your question, which I might need you to remind me of the question because I think I just went completely on a tangent there.
I will remind you of the question. Although I want to highlight, you just dropped like 3 of these huge tips in one sentence. It was like, if you don't remember to do things that add energy, not take it away. Because if, like you said, if you keep going, and I love that, you probably will arrive miserable or burnout. I want to talk to you about that, which is miserable. And said, like, what else did you say? Do things that add energy, add pleasure to what you're doing. And these are all things that we can actually do. We just get so entrained to our work habits or what we're used to, just putting our nose to the grindstone sort of thing. And I wouldn't even say I was consciously aware that I had the point of view, okay, if I just work harder, I will get further. But what I did have is, as a high achiever as well, I know that if I just keep going, creativity is fun for me and taking action is fun. But what's interesting is I've found is the more you get off balance and the further down that path you are, it actually feels comfortable to stay out of balance, like that level of stress and movement. So I didn't think I was consciously going, oh, if I just work harder, I'll get there. That was not a conscious thought. It was like, this is comfortable. I know how to do this. Like, I have a lot of energy. I can keep going. And then you and I were on a create call with our other friend, Alicia, who I'm also going to have as a guest on this podcast. And you two, because you both work with corporate clients and high achievers, we're talking about burnout. And I think it was you who mentioned, well, there's these phases of burnout. And at first it can show up as, you're just more irritable and frustrated at work and you don't feel like yourself. And you kept speaking and I was like, wow, that's how I've been feeling the last year. And I was trying to make all of this meaning another story about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just think I'm maybe burnt out and didn't notice it. Can you talk about that?
Of course. And I remember that conversation because I could see you having this aha moments of, oh, that's what I am feeling. Because again, I think we look at burnout as this binary thing. It's either you're burnout or you're not. Whereas what Alicia and I were saying is that it's a spectrum. So there are different ways that burnout can manifest itself. And it's also at different intensities. So it's a 10 out of 10 or a 0 out of 10. It's not just when you're hospitalized and diagnosed that, hey, you are absolutely at the bottom of your will to live and wanting to work. Burnout can come in stages. And the stage that we were talking about that I felt that you resonated with is when you just lose drive, lose the spark of life, of just nothing feels worthy of doing. The same task that maybe before gave you meaning, gave you fulfillment and satisfaction, all of a sudden it's very, meh, I just don't feel like it. What's the point? You also start becoming very irritable and it's very easy to pass that threshold of irritability, and little things will get you there. So it can be a simple email when someone is just asking you for a favor that can absolutely send you from a very calm state of mind to a raging bull, because that's how little your mind and your body have the capacity to cope with anything that is just not what they expected in that day. So that can be the first step. If you feel like you are slowly becoming, also, you're not you're almost watching yourself from the exterior and you're saying, that's not like me. I am not usually like this. Why am I behaving like this? How come I'm saying things that I normally don't say, or I'm acting towards my colleagues or my family? I know that that's what happened to me. I've realized that I achieved burnout. It was back in 2015. And wow, that was a lesson, because I thought I had such a good relationship with my brain, my little alarm bells. I knew when I'm reaching a point of too much work or being too stressed. I knew that I had a good system to tell me that and tell me to recharge and take a step back. But even I failed at that. And for me, it manifested in just irritability towards colleagues. But then I started really taking it up on my family and my friends. And I think when they had to call it out to say, Irina, you are usually a calm and joyful person. You're a nightmare to be around with right now. I do not enjoy speaking to you. You act like you're just a person who's constantly upset and angry and irritable with life. I think that's when I really got upset, because work is work. You cannot allow something from work to then really go into your personal life. And I think that's when you start feeling that, oh, okay, something has to change. This cannot happen, that now my family feels that I was a monster. I really was.
Well, I
That
think
was
you said that, like, when we start to notice this isn't normal for me, this isn't how I like to be and show up. And then when other people really, that's when people do give you valuable feedback of a blind spot you can't see, like, oh, wow, I am being that all the time. I'm not normally this reactive. So what did you do then to, if you're in that early phase and you start to notice that, what steps can you take? Like, what did you do to change that? Because that's part of, I imagine, what you do in working with high achievers. So they don't hit that, or if they're there, we can come back.
yeah. So I guess there are two ways of looking at it. One is what's in your control, right? So maybe you're in the right environment, the company is absolutely fine, but you are the one who's causing all this internal turmoil that got you to that burnout point. Because again, if you think of the word burnout, like there was a flame, you had a fire in you, and slowly that fire just burned out. There's nothing there. There's no more flame. So if, let's say, you're in the first category of people where the working environment is actually okay, but you're the one who either took on too much work or created too much internal pressures, so many times we're actually the ones putting all this pressure on ourselves and really pushing us to deliver more and faster and saying yes to way much more work than we are actually capable of delivering, just because we want to be seen as the people who are the go-getters, are the people who get stuff done. So if that's the case for you, then we need to really unpeel a little bit. Where is all this need of overdoing, overachieving coming from? Can we work a little bit on, first of all, the workload, but then also how you look at that workload? Why do you associate maybe that much of your value with the work that you're doing? Your work is not yourself. Let's work on the identity of, it's okay to deliver, and that's it. You don't have to go above and beyond every single day. Now, again, I'm saying this from a place of, I am the person who will always go above and beyond. But I know that I have my self-regulation techniques. I know when it's time for me to say, Irina, this project is now okay to be delivered like this. That's fine. You can go to sleep now. So I think we first work on what can we do to start influencing and controlling a bit more the factors that you can actually change and impact in your work, from workload to your identity about your work. That's actually an easy part, because you're working with the person, you're working with the person's mind. And the more difficult part is when you're actually, we've worked with your brain, we work with your mind and your internal systems, but the environment that you're in is quite toxic, and it's not necessarily helping and contributing for you to maintain those controls over you and for you to maintain those healthy habits and a healthy mindset that you've created. That's when we have to really decide, do we look for other roles, other companies? Can we influence or control anything in that working environment that will get you to be in a better position? Or if not, is it time to say goodbye? Because again, we can have the best brain, best mindset. If we're working in a quite toxic environment where no one else is aligned to the way that we are thinking, it'll be very difficult for you to change a company from the inside out. I'm a believer that you can, but it's very difficult.
Yeah, I love that because as you said, if your flame has gone out or very small, and then to try to take on that task of what would be challenging anyway in
Yeah.
that environment is like you don't have the fuel that you normally have anyway. What does that look like when you say if like you're, because the name of this podcast is Shift Your Vibe to Thrive, and I talk about like alignment, like we have different energies, and you mentioned if you're in a company where it's not aligned with you, what do you mean by that and how can that be toxic?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I had a leadership program recently where it's almost funny how people don't realize, first of all, people who are for their first time in a management position, in a leadership position, really have to be treated differently than people who have had management experience before. Because what happens, you will take an individual contributor who was absolutely smashing their targets, their KPIs, and they were outperforming. You promote that individual to a leadership position where the skill set, the mindset, everything they have to do on the job is completely different. It's not about what they're doing, it's about how they're leading a group of people for them to deliver the results that the company needs. And usually that's when the first burnout cycle, let's say, that I see is in people who have a shift in their roles and responsibility and they're not supported at all. They come on a Monday, they start their management leadership position, and they go with the same brain of, if I do well and if I work hard, results will come. But actually, it's very different. And when you don't have the support from the company to say, hey, we might need to help you understand how you need to think differently now about your day to day. It's all about the people to deliver now, not necessarily you individually doing all the work. Let's talk about delegation. Let's talk about empowering people. Let's talk about how you manage people. So that's number one, where I see that companies are actually not helping people in their first leadership position to acknowledge that this is a whole new different set of skills that they need to employ. That's one. Another area where I do see companies not supporting, let's say, the people who are achieving burnout is the curse of the high performer. You know, those people who you just know that they will get the job done. So then you give them more work because you
Yep.
know that she will get the job done. And you know that Emily is very good. So Emily will just do it. And then because she already done it even faster than you thought that she would, you gave her even more. That's when companies really have to be so mindful of not punishing the people who are doing a great job. When you are a high performer and you are a high achiever, you will constantly want to show that, yes, you can raise to the expectation that people have of you. As a company, the amount of times that I've seen that people actually probably unknowingly take advantage of that and they push more and more projects on the plate of someone who's already at capacity and overcapacity. That's another example of how companies can do a better job in helping prevent that high achiever not burn out. They will never say no because that's part of their mentality. They don't say no, they deliver. So then you as a company have to be very mindful of, are we pushing that person way too much?
And so I'm listening to it. I'm again having like all of these light bulb moments. I remember the one office job I've had, I was an assistant and he gave me the work on the Monday. I think it was my first day. And I came back in the afternoon and had it all done. He goes, that was supposed to take you the whole week. I was like, oh, well, it didn't. What else do you have? And I didn't work there long enough to get burnout because I just couldn't be in an office for that long. I think I lasted 6 months. And he said, I'm surprised you actually lasted this long. But even when I was a teacher, I took on like the hardest classes, the most amount of grading, all of that. Every job I've had, I've always, because I can just get it done fast and get it done. So is the key there is for the company or who you're working with to not keep loading it on that person, even though they can do it.
Just to have a very good awareness of, this person is having double the projects on their plate and they're still delivering. But should we just check in with them? Because they might be delivering, but they might be working 14 hours a day. So it's so important to have that proactivity from the leadership level to say, Emily, you're doing a phenomenal job and you're actually doing double than the average colleague. Can I just ask, like, how are you? Can I check in if there's anything that I can take maybe off your plate? Like performance-wise, you're doing an incredible job. Energy levels, are you still okay? Are you still with us? Can we do anything to support you? It's so important to have those check-ins because, as you said, you will take the hardest classes, you will take the most challenging students in your case, that's how we're built, right? We want the challenge because we thrive on the challenge, because we have that invisible badge of honor. When something was hard, people couldn't solve it. We came through, we solved it. We feel good. So as high achievers, we are a little bit addicted to hard stuff. We like it, we want it, we pursue it, we attract it. How do we make sure that we don't kill ourselves in the process? That's the key. And again, this is like such a good segue of that's where joy comes along. You have to build in really intentional moments where you just introduce play, introduce celebration, introduce gratitude, introduce tools of positive psychology, introduce tactics and techniques that will help you then do all these hard things and challenges that you want to do.
Yeah. I think that's so important because, like you said, if you're used to, we actually get a hit of like serotonin and dopamine, like that, like when you work hard and prove, and people say, and if you turn in more, right? And so to add joy, what you're actually doing is you're creating that same chemical mix that you've become addicted to from working hard, from actually choosing things that are joyful. So can you talk about like practically what that looks like, whether it's a mindset thing or a body thing that you can do to add that in?
Yeah, I always start with a joy audit. And actually, sorry, let's take a step back. First of all, what is joy? Because the notion of joy and happiness, they kind of get intertwangled and mingled. Joy is an intangible feeling that is created by a series of tangible things. So when we say, like, you should go and find joy, I always say, no, you create joy. Joy comes from within, and joy gets created. You don't find it, you create it. So those tangible things that you can always have at your disposal to create this feeling, I bucket them into 4 categories. People. So you know those people that sometimes you just meet for coffee and you leave so energized, so full of life, you're pumped. Now, I'm not saying that you should delegate and outsource your joy to someone else. But what I'm saying is that you should have a list of people that when you need a boost of energy and a boost of joy in your life, there's like your hit list of top 3 people that you know that if you're going to give them a call, they will just, at the end of the interaction with them, your battery will be fuller rather than emptier. So that's people. Their activities, dancing, going on a walk, playing with your dog, playing with your children, maybe building the perfectly frothy cappuccino. These are activities that are part of your, maybe let's say, joy toolkit. Have a list of them. And when you're feeling that, oh, I'm a bit exhausted or my energy is going down, just take one of those activities from the toolkit. Just have them at hand. Become very self-aware of what are the activities that bring you joy. The third category is things. So maybe a favorite jumper that you just wear it and you're like, oh, this is it. Like my day is going to be a good day now. Or there's a mug you love. And when you know that your day starts with a cup of tea in that mug, this is it. Things, as I'm not saying again to go on the materialistic side, but things can give you joy. And the fourth category is places. So what are the places that bring you joy? Maybe it's your favorite sofa in the living room, or you just have, it's like shaped to your body almost. You just go there and with a cup of tea and your favorite book, that's your place. Or maybe there's a favorite bench in the park that you like going to, or there's, I don't know, like for me in London, it's St. Paul's Cathedral. I'll just go there and stare at it for 2 hours. There's something about that place, how majestic it is and how grand it is. It makes me feel very alive. So that is something that I associate with joy. Maybe, again, places can be, you love Sicily. So you're realizing that maybe I should book a trip soon to Sicily because I just love that place. And whenever I'm there, I'm at my most alive self. So these are the 4 elements that when I'm saying you should perform a joy audit is measure how many of these things have you done in the last 30 days? The people that brought you joy, did you see them recently? If not, should you prioritize seeing them soon? Activities, if you love dancing and you haven't danced in a year, should you maybe prioritize going dancing next week? Things, maybe you have a ton of clothes that you don't like, and actually there are 2 dresses that you really love. Should you wear them more often so that you get back into that groove? And places. do you have a clear list of places that give you joy? And that's such a small and simple step, but it's so powerful because you, all of a sudden, when you start journaling about all of this, you just have this recipe book almost of how to create more joy in your life. And it starts from that.
That is so beautiful. And that's maybe one of the coolest definitions, shall we say, of joy. Like, it's an intangible, but thank you for giving us really clearly, like, how to look at the tangible things we can add and to check in. Because a lot of us can say our place or our activity, but when you go, well, when was the last time you actually prioritized it and chose it? It's a whole different ballgame. We know how fast like weeks and months go by, and all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I did not make time for that at all.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think what you just said of how fast time goes by and how easy it is to just let inertia do its thing, and same day looks the same, and you just, a week has passed, and again it's 13th of Jan. I'm like, how did already 2 weeks of this year have gone by? So this is then when almost like my second favorite definition of joy comes through, which is joy is a momentary experience of intense positive emotion. So if we look at joy and happiness in tandem, joy is a high energy form of happiness. Happiness is measured over a long term. Joy is about the now, the right now. So what I tell my clients is that instead of being obsessed with this pursuit of happiness, that I'm pursuing happiness, I'm like, actually, how about you pursue ordinary moments of joy each day? Because what happens is that if you start building one moment of joy each day, and then maybe 2 moments, you're going to have a joyful day. And then you might have a series of 7 joyful days, which builds a joyful week. And then a joyful week can become a joyful month. And that's how you build a joyful year. And I'm sorry, but how is that not a happy life? When you start building, like there's the saying of, what was it? That a beautiful life is a collection of beautiful moments, something like that. So it's like a happy life is a collection of just joyful days. Start with one day, and that's how you're going to build a happy life.
And that is such a huge mindset piece. And you said it so brilliantly. When we are targeting a happy life and we feel really far from that, it seems like an impossible task. Like, why am I going to try anyway, basically? But when you put joy as this, I love that, a present moment of this intense happiness. Well, you can aim, that is a target you can aim for. And then when you get it, you get that satisfaction from having like, oh, I've had that. I have tasted that joy. I wore that sweater or I went to that place. And then because it keeps that momentum going, it's not some far off target that you feel like you can't hit. And because you keep missing the target, you're like, I'm not going to play that game anyway. Yeah. And I think also when you said, the pursuit of happiness, I recently just heard, and I think this applies a lot to high achievers, that we can go into the happiness of pursuit. So we feel happy because we're just constantly pursuing. And I was like, wow.
It hit home. It hit home.
Yeah. Yeah. So, one of the things I found really interesting to learn about you is not only do you work in the corporate world and are you a coach for high performers, but you also used to play basketball. Can you talk about, that's another, because I'd love you to bring in that achievement with the body, and then how do you use the body rather than go, go, go to also add to this joy?
Yeah. I actually did not even realize the impact that those, 10 years of playing professional basketball in my early childhood, the impact that it had on how it built me as a person, how it built my character. So I played basketball from the age of 8 till 18. So I played for my national team, so my country's team. And it is beautiful because what happens is that when you play at that level from such an early age, it really builds the backbone of who you are going to become as a person. Because to have 2 practices a day from the age of 8, Saturdays and Sundays, I was waking up at 6 a.m. every day in order to either have a match or prepare for the next match. So to have that discipline built into you from 8 years old, I mean, you're set for life because as an adult, then you carry these habits and this mentality with you. So I think I've only recently started connecting the success that I've had in my corporate job or in my entrepreneurial venture with the practices that I took from playing a high-performing sport. And there's so much of it. The mentality that athletes have that winning mindset, you're built to show up when the pressure is high, when there's a high stake environment, when people are heckling you and they're like talking, throwing stuff at you, and you have to hit that free throw. So building that into the way you perceive the world, the way you know about yourself, the way you know that you have to show up for yourself, how at the end of the day, it is, you have to trust yourself, because it doesn't matter if the coach believes in you, if your father believes in you, if the colleagues believe in you, you have to believe in yourself. And I think that mentality, again, it's just the foundation of anything you want to achieve in life. Build that trust in yourself, that belief in yourself. You are your own best friend, and you have to become a subject matter expert in the most important subject in the world, which is you. And I know that we both follow Tom Brady's coach completely, Greg Harden.
Greg Harden, yes.
Yeah, and that's what he always says. Like, he was coaching Tom Brady, and I think Tom Brady was 18, and the coach doubted him. And Tom Brady went to Greg and said, well, the coach doesn't believe in me. He was like, boy, I do not care if the coach believes in you or not. You have to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, how do you expect other people to believe in yourself? I'm like, oh, damn. If you don't believe in yourself, how do you expect others to believe in you? And I don't think we do enough work on building that self-belief, self-love, self-acceptance. And again, we're going to that remit of words that are almost sound the opposite of high performance and results and success, like self-love, self-acceptance, self-affection, like joy. They're actually a huge component to deliver those results and to show up at your highest level. And it's really important that we start normalizing that joy and discipline go together. Success and self-love go together. High performance and playfulness go together.
I love that, because I love throwing in things that people do not see how they could possibly go together, and they do. And I would even add to that, as you say, that requirement to believe in yourself. One of the things I think, and trusting and believing in yourself, can seem to many people like that intangible happiness, right? Like, how do I get there? But all of us have evidence of, and we can look back and gather evidence and oh wait, like, when did I fall down and get back up? Like, actually, I do follow through with what I say. And if I don't, like, I'm going to make it a habit to do that more. Like, you can gather evidence and look back. And I think, having played a sport like you did for so long, you had a lot of evidence to look back on and go, whoa, I show up over and over and over again, and I can do that, which then you have a trust and a belief in yourself that things get hard. Not every day is great, but I'll show up. And it's not about being perfect. And it's not about being a great player every day. It's about being there. And that trust and belief in you is really, it's always there. I would say to people, look for evidence rather than think it's something you have to attain. You already have it. We don't see it in ourselves, or we don't notice it.
We don't see it. We don't notice it. And remember, your brain is wired to show you all the bad stuff. So even if I have a repertoire of examples of evidence that I have that I do show up for myself, I do know how to overcome challenges, even with that, my brain every day will make it its mission to say, maybe you're not that good. I don't think you're enough of, I don't know, a good enough public speaker to run this workshop. So why do you even consider doing this? And it's so important to remind people that that's what the brain is there to do. Brain wants to protect you, to make sure that it scans the environment for risk, threat, danger, and it will always give you the information that you need in order to put yourself out of the danger zone. Now, danger zone can also be the area where magical things happen. That's where you get yourself out of the comfort zone. That's where you push yourself to overcome a barrier, to maybe speak up in a meeting, to maybe go on a date with a guy, to maybe ask for that promotion that you felt really stressed about asking. Your brain is designed to keep you safe. Remember that. So when your brain gives you thoughts like, are you sure you can do that? Just remember that it is supposed to do that, and you shouldn't believe it. I work so much on befriending the brain. I have a name for my brain. It's Jessica. Jessica is really annoying. I know Jessica is there to protect me, but Jessica sometimes needs to be put in her place. So when I want to deliver maybe a workshop that I'm a bit more, maybe it's the first time, or I am just a bit more nervous about organizing it, I expect Jessica to show up and say, really? You to deliver that? Even look at how you dressed. Like, how did you choose this outfit? Jessica, for some reason, sounds like a really mean girl from high school. Like, that's how she sounds like. But because I expect her, pretty much by the time she comes into my head, I'm like, okay, old friend, welcome. Now it's my choice to believe you or not. And that's where that mental fitness element comes of knowing that those thoughts will come. And then how do you work to leverage those thoughts and actually, as you said, go back in past, look for evidence where that's not true. Look for evidence where you actually did deliver a workshop and you did do a great job and people really appreciated your public speaking. Look for that evidence. Expect Jessica to come and still like put her in her place.
That is my favorite tool that I have never heard, to name your mind. And it's so funny because I've been on that track of rather than making it wrong, because I've spent a long time making that thought process wrong. And so I love that tool of give it a name. Like, I expect you to show up, you know, and it's just, that's what's going to happen. That's what Jessica's going to say. That's the perfect name, by the way, for a mean high school girl. I was like, that's so good. Wow. Do I love that? And thank you for all of this. I think this is such a different perspective. You have such an ease of putting to words all of this and making it really tangible of how you do all that. I was a cross country runner. That's what I did through all college and high school.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And it's funny, at the time, like you said, our brain points out all of the bad, you know, the quote bad stuff. And I was never a top runner. But I always showed up and I loved it. And I looked back on that as my oldest daughter tried out. Well, they both have actually tried cross country. And I realized, wow, this is a sport that it's hard. You know, down in the South here, she's showing up on like 100-degree days sometimes to run. And I was like, wow, that built probably a resilience in me. It actually took me seeing my daughters start that sport to realize what an effect that had had on me as a person, like just showing up. And I remember my parents making me stay with it like the first year. And I was like, I don't want to stay with it. I just wanted to quit. And the fact that I didn't, it gave me so much going further in life, you know, that resilience. And now learn how to buffer that, like not just go, 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 make myself keep going, but adding in the joy, like everything we're talking about. So you enjoy it.
Yeah, similar to you. It only took me, I think it's just maybe 3 years ago when I started. So I never realized the impact that basketball had and that like playing a sport at that level. I only realized the impact that I had in my career, I think 3 years ago, when I started seeing at our sales kickoffs and company events, all these athletes and champions, like football players or the guy who climbed Mount Everest for the first time, they started coming to deliver keynote speeches about their definition of success and their definition of what resilience means and what discipline is. It's like, I remember sitting there and like, what's the connection? Like, you're an athlete, you play sports, we're in corporate, we work at our desk, we don't climb Mount Everest. And it just hit me. I had this moment of, I think for everyone it was obvious, but then it hit me. I'm like, oh, there's so many principles from athletes and how you conduct yourself as an athlete and as a top performer in sport. If you transfer them over to business, they're the same principles. They're like both of them conclude to the same result, which is success. Like, oh, what?
And relationships. Like if you show up in a relationship, really willing to show up and keep going and ask questions, like sports, business, relationship, all of it. It's those skills to really, you know, be present, find the joy, ask questions, like everything you're talking about. It's amazing. Okay. I want to ask you, I ask every guest that comes on here a couple questions because I love to sort of get to know more about you. And these questions are very telling energetically, I think. What is, and especially for you, you know, living in a country, living in England, living in London, where you are not originally from, tell me a place in the world that is your favorite place to be or to go and why.
I'll just go with the first one, Cape Town. South Africa. I got stuck in Cape Town during the pandemic, and a trip that was supposed to be 5 weeks became 11 months. So I can say that I lived in Cape Town, I guess.
Wow.
But it pretty much transformed my life. I quit my job and I started my coaching business while I was in Cape Town. I completely redefined the type of person that I am. I always thought that I'm a city girl and I get high on skyscrapers and beautiful buildings and the architecture of London. And Cape Town humbled me so much because I've realized that I was so happy and it was so simple for me to be at peace with my day when I had the ocean on one side, mountains on the other side. Every day I was in nature, and I had no idea that this is something that can contribute so much to my happiness, just being in nature. So I think it just made me rediscover myself as a person that always grew up in the city. And all of a sudden, Cape Town just gave me a whole new awareness of what makes me happy and who I am as a person. And the people there, don't know, again, we're not going to go into the history of Cape Town, but a lot of the people that I met there had to build their own careers because of the difficulties that the economy had there. So they're all entrepreneurs, to the point that I think I was in a group of 20 people and I was the only one who had a corporate career. And they looked at me like I was this alien, like, oh, you sit at a desk all day and someone tells you what to do through a screen? Like, no, we dictate how we live our lives here. And it really started making me want to flirt with the idea of entrepreneurship and having the freedom of designing my day how I want it to look like. So Cape Town is for me.
I love that I asked you that question because I did not know that at all. And it's such a beautiful example of when something shows up that seems like, oh my God, you mean I'm stuck here? And then
Yep.
it turns into this beautiful gift in so many ways. That's probably just the tip of what that gifted you. And wow, I love Cape Town too. It's one of my favorite places in the world I've ever been. Okay, next question. Do you have a favorite, like a book or a movie or a song that really inspires you, like gives you the energy of like, yes, I'm gonna, whatever that keep going or lights you up or brings you joy?
Again, I'll go with the first one that came to my mind because I'm sure that there's so many more. I don't know if you've seen the movie Seabiscuit about the horse.
Yes, I love it. Yes.
For me, that story is just, I cry every time I see it. Like, I know how it ends. I know the plot. I know everything is going to be okay. It just shows the power of when you have someone who believes in you, the mountains you can move. So Seabiscuit was this horse that no one believed in its ability to become a success story, to the point that he was used to boost the ego of the champion horses. So they would make Seabiscuit go on races with the champion so that the champion feels better about themselves. So he was always put in a position to lose. He was never given a chance to succeed. And it was enough for someone to come and witness the potential and say, that horse can be so much more than even the horse currently thought that they would be. And again, I know we're talking about horses, but it can be applied to humans as well. Just someone to spot the potential and say, but you can do more. And I see more in you. Let's go get that. And Seabiscuit is just a story that always touches me, of the power of having someone to believe in you and to encourage for you to pursue your potential.
Thank you so much. I'm going to have to invite you on the podcast again because I was like, we could keep talking all day. This is so wonderful. So I'll make sure to leave in the show notes like how people can find you, connect with you, work with you. And thank you so much for being on here.
It was the best possible way I could spend my Saturday afternoon with you, Emily. So thank you so much for having me. And I hope everyone enjoys our conversation as much as we did.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope you got something out of that episode. If you like this podcast, please share it with someone you know who'd find it useful or interesting, and subscribe so that you can listen to past and upcoming shows.